Welcome, fellow Stardust. Are you ready for a scare? I see you've come back for more. If you're new here, buckle up, and thank you all for joining me today. My name is DeRay, aka rainbowFRIGHT, lover of all things dark, creepy, and weird. And today, I'll be talking about Stepford Wives, both the original from 1972 as well as the remake from 2004. And this month, I'll be joined by another very special returning guest. Two, in fact. This horror couple is one of the fastest growing horror duos on YouTube. They love to interview fellow horror lovers and also have a passion for psychological thrillers. Please join me in welcoming back Evol Live, aka Evil Tyrone and Lady Evol.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for being here. I so appreciate it.
Listen, it's always a good time.
Absolutely. We had to be here.
Love it. Yes, thank you again. And last time you were here, Tyrone, we were actually talking about 5 of our favorite A24 movies. And this was before you, Jaleesa, became an official host of the show. So I just wanted to say welcome to you once again and congrats on your new role at Evol Live.
Thank you. It feels good.
Well, it looks real good on you too.
Thank you.
Well, all right, let's go ahead and get into our Stepford Wives chat. But before we get into our comparisons of the two films, here is a brief synopsis and a bit of background on both of the films. Spoilers are ahead. In the 1975 original, Joanna Eberhardt, her husband Walter, and their 2 children leave the bustling city of New York to settle in the quiet and quaint town of Stepford, Connecticut. It's not long before Joanna starts to feel like something isn't quite right, especially after Carol seems to have had a meltdown at a party, i.e. a malfunction. Joanna's fears are validated when Bobby vanishes and is replaced by a Stepford wife robot, a fate orchestrated by the Men's Association. Finally, her own doppelganger completes her transformation by strangling Joanna with her pantyhose. The film stars Katharine Ross, Peter Masterson, Paula Prentice, and Nanette Newman. The film is an adaptation of Ira Levin's novel of the same name, which was published just 3 years before the film's release. Ira also had success with adaptations of his novel Rosemary's Baby and theatrical play Death Trap. Producer of the film Edgar J. Sherrick wanted Brian De Palma to be the director, but screenplay writer William Goldman refused to work with Brian because he didn't like his work. So Edgar then recruited English director Brian Forbes, who was surprised that they would want an English director tackling such American subject matter. The movie premiered on February 12, 1975 and grossed $4 million. While not a huge hit at the box office, it quickly grew a cult following and is now regarded as one of the best science fiction movies on many movie lists. In the remake, there is a drastic change in tone, but the story is essentially the same. We have Joanna, who is an overworked executive who gets fired. Because of this, she and her family move to Stepford. And again, things are a little off. However, Joanna tries to acclimate to her new surroundings, but when Bobby and Roger have made the change, she begins her investigation. She finds out the truth and confronts the Men's Association, but this time, we get a twist ending. Instead of Joanna also becoming a Stepford wife, she's able to get through to Walter, who helps her rescue the rest of the wives, who are now robots but still have their own brains. We then learn that Claire was the one who created this world, and her husband Mike was in fact a Stepford husband. The star-studded cast includes Nicole Kidman, Bette Midler, Matthew Broderick, Christopher Walken, Glenn Close, Roger Bart, John Lovitz, and Faith Hill. This was director Frank Oz's second to last film he directed, and he complained that he felt overwhelmed by the amount of money that was put into the production and the concern over Paramount's wants and desires. Paramount conducted multiple test screenings for the ending that was supposed to stay true to the source's material's ending, but instead, we get a happy one. The remake premiered on June 11, 2004, and earned $103 million at the box office against a $100 million budget. Okay, so there was a lot of information in all of what I just said, and we'll go back to all of it. But first, Tyrone and Jaleesa, what are your feelings about the original, and what did you take away from the movie?
Oh, what a loaded question. For the sake of this discussion of Stepford Wives, I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
So, the original, I loved both of them. I thought it was really interesting, especially since the first one did take place in the 70s. And I told you that's my favorite era, the 70s. It was really interesting once they moved to Stepford and just seeing that image of Walter. He just has a receding hairline, which, by the way, I had to look up these actors' ages. He can tell you. I was like, hold on, she look a little too young. Let me look. And I saw that she's 35 and he was like 40. And I was like, cool. And so he convinces her like, oh, let's move here. And, you know, she started to peep game. Like something is weird going on around here as far as how the women were dressed in the ideal way, I guess, of what their husbands would want, but would never get in real life.
And how about you, Tyrone? What were your feelings about the original?
You know what? The original was, this was my first time actually watching the original. I'm glad that, you mentioned it and was like, we should talk about this, because I had always loved the remake, but watching the original, I'm like, this is creepier than the remake to me. Like the tones, it was definitely a different tone. The men were a little bit more like scary and sinister to me, like just the subtle things that they were doing, when dude was when he was drawing up, he's sketching with his little sketches or whatever. I'm like, that's a violation. Don't be sketching my wife. It's a violation. It was a lot of things going on. I didn't expect it to be as serious in tone. And it kind of made me reflect, because, me being a male in society, sometimes you look at the world and you're like, okay, things are progressing. We're progressing. And then you look at something that was made decades previously and you're like, wow, so these ideas are not new ideas. Like these concepts are not new concepts. Like women have always been, trying to speak up and say things, and we really have not gone, anywhere. So it's just like, it was kind of like, I love the movie, but it was kind of like, damn, we really haven't made, the imprint that we have hoped to make,
Seriously, because this movie came out right at the height of when women were getting their voices heard, and, all this shit was going down in the 60s and 70s with equality and feminism. And it's just so interesting to hear how so many leaders in the feminist communities are actually against this movie, when it's like they should have been completely behind it. Sure, there were some feminists who understood it and, praised the film, but others were saying, oh, this is a ripoff of women's equality. And it's like, how? Are you not understanding the point of the movie? It's just a trip seeing these men basically just be more okay with their wives dying and living the rest of their lives with a robot, instead of seeing their wife as an equal partner or as a human being. Even they would prefer her not even be there. So yeah, I always had an appreciation for, the original being a film from the 70s, but I always thought it was too long and I didn't really always like the music choices. So when I saw the remake, I appreciated it. I know not a lot of people do, but I thought adding humor was the right choice. I know it's a sensitive topic, and that's kind of a lot of people's criticism about it being a comedy. But there's comedies made about every taboo subject out there, and it's done well, like Heather's or even Death Becomes Her and things like that. I revisited Stepford Wives, the remake, for the first time after a while, just hoping that I would still like it as much as I did. And it still holds up for me, as corny as it might be, or, as happy as of an ending that it might have. I had a good time with it, as I always did, growing up.
Absolutely. And then to your point, when you said like some of these men would rather their wives die, they show that in the remake in the first 15 minutes when Joanna, she presented her reality show, and I immediately laughed because that's why I asked you what that reality show was called, when you go out on dates with other people and then you hold up the card and you decide whether you want to stay with them or not, change of heart. Yeah. It was her show was literally that, but a tropical paradise. Like, oh, do I stay with my husband who I hate and I hate my life with him and with him in it, or this tropical paradise with this man who's this and that, and she chose him, like not her husband, but she chose the tropical paradise. And the husband is, distraught, shows up at the conference, tries to hurt Joanna. And then Joanna finds out, oh, he actually shot his wife and the boyfriend. So yeah, he would have rather die than for her to be happy.
But that's why I love the remake, because it's like, I love that whole painting a portrait of, oh, this is supposed to be happy and, just the perfect, white picket fence and everything. And it's just like the behind the scenes. What is it really about? It reminded me, it gave me like a Desperate Housewives type vibes, so definitely appreciated it.
Oh, for sure. Because by that time, even in the 70s, the term Stepford just became a part of our vocabulary to describe somebody who is that way in the movies. It's not a real place. It's a fictional place. So it was easy just to start using that to describe folks, women, men, and whomever. Just kind of fits that, non-confrontational, docile / boring person.
Unnatural, because girl, why are you working out in a sundress? Like when Joanna in the remake, when she was like, why are y'all working out in the sun? And then they weren't real exercises. They were.
I know, just the housewife movements, or, homemaker movements, if you want to call them that.
Is that what those men think we should only be interested in? Like Bobby couldn't even bring up Joanna couldn't even bring up a book that she read, and the women were like uninterested.
Right.
I'm like,
the Heritage Hills Special Edition Golden Deluxe Treasury of Christmas keepsakes and collectibles.
You brought up the dresses. It's funny because Carol Van Sant, the one who basically has the malfunction and says, I'll just die if I don't get this recipe, was the director's wife. And they initially wanted to have the women dressed in like Playboy bunny type outfits. But because she was, I guess, maybe just a little bit older, didn't have the shape of a Playboy bunny, they ended up using the long dresses that covered them up even more. But I think in hindsight, that actually worked better than having them in like mini skirts and tank tops.
It absolutely did. Because what?
It's just another example of men behind the scenes, not knowing what the hell is going on.
What man wrote this?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, especially if you are talking about the quote unquote like preserving values and tradition and stuff like that, of course you're going to want women walking around and the dresses and the frills and all that, and not some damn Playboy mansion, so
exactly. And speaking of them sort of being like sundresses, I appreciate this being a thriller in the daylight, because especially after Midsummer, I've been kind of keeping my eye out for those types of movies even more, and who has been able to accomplish that successfully. And this is definitely an example of creating that thrill and that suspense in the daylight without having to be so in the dark, with the exception, of course, the last scene with the thunderstorm and her doppelganger.
And then what happened with Sarah in the remake on the dance floor? What happened?
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Then the men was like, Johnny was like, what? She needs to see a doctor. And them fools was like, what do they do? Tap her forehead? Get up.
And I love how they do that pretty early on in the movie, because in the original, we don't get malfunctions till way further into the movie. And even then, it's kind of unsure as to what's going on. And even though the 2004 movie might have been for a completely different audience, they still understood that most people knew what the word Stepford is and what a Stepford wife is. So we quickly found out that Faith Hill's character that, do-si-does around and collapses was a robot. There's no way around it. There's sparks flying and things like that. And now we're just left to like wait and see Joanna's character discover that, because we already know. So I appreciate the pacing of the second one more over the first. The first one, which is way too long for sure. It could have been cut down by at least 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then the remake is 30 minutes shorter. And we also get, a little bit of backstory before the move, and we get some stuff after, she goes down under and supposedly is transformed into a robot. Again, we get a completely different ending, which I would have been happier with a more sad ending, to be honest. But it is a dark comedy, so I think they had to just kind of go with a good ending, especially, I guess, after test screenings, which I also absolutely hate. I hate test screenings when production companies do that. But whatever. It worked in this case. I was okay with it.
It was sad for the men. They absolutely dread the ending of the remake.
Listen.
What? We got to do our own shit? Oh, what? Now they're in the grocery store. It was sad.
The ending of the remake was not bad at all. It was actually a funny ending. But I think
great.
I feel like the first one was just unhinged, because not only did you have that ending, but you also had the part where they're in the kitchen and she's like, she's trying to explain to her friend, like, this isn't you. You didn't used to clean like this, blah, blah, blah. And then she stabs her in the damn stomach. And I'm like, you didn't even check. It was just like
that was my thing too. It's like you didn't even try the arm or the calf.
You went straight for the gut.
Why would you do such a thing? Why would you do such a thing?
I'm like, yo, this is this is very unhinged. Like you just like now you like, you're not a Stepford wife, but you something else. Like, this place done flipped you in 4 months, because she was like, yo, we've been here for 4 months. 4 months and turn you into a murderer.
I think, yeah. I mean, if you get driven to insanity, sometimes you just do some things. And she was being driven hard. Her kids were missing, That was a big part of it for that evening for her. She was definitely hitting rock bottom at that point. So, and I think the novel, it had, a satirical touch to it. And like you were saying with the original film, it was super serious. And I think it was just too serious. It could have definitely lightened up a bit and just made fun of itself just a little bit more, not be maybe so flamboyant as the remake. But I did appreciate that addition of the comedy, because I think it was intended in the first place with the novel.
Why do you make stuff like this?
Why don't you?
Because I have a penis.
To go back to your point where you said, Jordan Peele, was inspired by this film, his first film, Get Out. I totally see it, because, I saw it again, because I had seen it, of course, when it came out, but I didn't know that bit of information before watching it, and then watching it again, knowing that you can totally see the inspiration. And I did love seeing the parallels between Get Out and the original, especially with Kaluuya's character being a photographer like the first Joanna was. I love that.
And Lee Keith's character, he was definitely a Stepford husband until that flash happened.
Oh, yeah.
That was his malfunction. He malfunctioned. Get out. Like, he kind of woke up a little bit. So it was definitely Stepford Wives, but Black, racial, in this setting where the only way that certain people can have control is if we're robotic or objectified.
Exactly.
It's
Did either of you bat an eye at the line where one of the women says, "Oh, I got 2 16-year-old boys with erections," and the girl's like, "Oh, send them over to my house"? I was like, what?
That happened a couple of times when we were watching the original. We looked at each other like,
And it was funny to me, and I like, even though it was like creepy, but I appreciated it because so many times when I'm watching these films from like the 70s, especially the 80s, all these men is doing the most inappropriate, doing the most with the touching, with they sayings and all this other foolishness. But it was nice to see, okay, yeah, Mrs. Robinson is in the mix as well, with her foolishness, so.
But it was just done so flippantly, and these women were supposed to be the good guys, the protagonists. So I feel like it wasn't even meant to be bad in a sense. Like, it was just so normal to say, yeah, a grown-ass woman can have sex with a young boy if he's willing. Like, who cares? It just seemed too real.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that they did try and add, some realistic elements, but the first one, the original was more, I guess, like, because of the tone, the realism that they tried to put in there was a little bit more raw. Like, even the fact that our main character, she's talking about, she was on some Notebook stuff like, oh, this guy who I used to be in love with, and we had this and that, and the pharmacist.
I was waiting for something more to happen with that when he was sliding her over the note saying, "I'm not happy either." I was like, and then. Are we coming back to this?
I think, what in the Ashley Madison is going on here? She not coming to see you, player. She has a question. She has a genuine concern, and you the only person she thought of. And you're all like, "Are you happy?"
Like the boldness, because you already asked her, "Are you not? Are you happy?" And she didn't answer you, and then you decide to write it on the paper. Write it on documentation. So now she's got proof. You're lucky this ain't 2024, because your ass would have been grass.
That man had a full head of hair and said, "Oh yeah, I'm married too. If you willing to leave your bald headed husband for me, I'm ready. I want to leave my bald headed wife too. Here, take this note."
But it was real though, because it's like, you, especially in that era, and the American dream, and a lot of women giving up, their goals or whatever just to fit into that, and to be like, hey, I still remember this one, who was about the love, similar to how we saw in Notebook. She was like, "You see that guy over there?"
But what if that happened in the original one, the same thing that happened in the remake at the beginning of the scene? What if Joanne go, "Sure," and get with the pharmacist, and then Walter come back and kill them both? You don't get to leave. No, like that's exactly what happened to the guy in the reality show. He got on that show. It was like, she going to choose me. And that wife was like, actually, no. Immediately, no.
Sorry,
I want him, and I want my tropical paradise. Mm-hmm. And he shot her. I don't know if they died, but he definitely shot her and the boyfriend. So who's to say the original Walter isn't dangerous?
I mean, but if he was, it'd just be realistic, add a level of realism to it, and it could be a cautionary, just something to throw in there. Like, what's his name? Ben Stiller used to do with the Menendez brothers or whatever. He would throw them in a little, you would have your movie, but you would also see on the side, some news stuff. I would put that Yeah, this is just they did Stepford Wives.
No, yeah, I mean they definitely did, because I thought it would have been a successful reality show. They wouldn't have fired her if the husband, like, she lost her job in the hands of a man, pretty much, because of how he reacted to being on the show with his wife and his wife choosing the boyfriend over him. Mm-hmm. She lost her job and had a nervous breakdown because of a man, and the shareholders pulled out their money, and then they fired her as the executive producer of the show that she created, all because of how he reacted. He got in that audience and was like, his show ruined, basically the show ruined his life. No, your life was already ruined. The show gave her a way out, dude. You don't have any hair either.
She was probably gonna leave him sometime down the line anyway.
She left you for a man with a full head of hair.
Shut up.
So the takeaway of tonight's episode.
Make sure your ass has a full head of hair if you want to be loved by any woman.
None of that spray either. We are not doing the spray. We like to go outside and that shit is going to melt. Do not put that spray on. Why are you looking at me like, we're not supposed to know about the spray. We're not supposed to know about the spray.
Isha's like, I don't know if I'm going to have hair forever, Jalisa.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
You are right. No, you are right.
Whatever is up there.
Today,
yes, I am.
Today.
I am. Yes.
Well, between the original and the remake, 1972 and 2004, which would you pick?
Remake.
Okay.
The husbands had to push the cart in I would sign up for that any day. Any day. You go grocery shopping. And them little boys, you gave him $500 because there was no toy in his lunch. Get out of here. Little boy.
Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna have to go with the remake as well. It's just my vibe. Like I love that whole Desperate Housewives, like whimsical vibe, but there's some foolishness underneath, So it was very. I feel like it's an easier watch than the original. Like the original's still a great movie, but like we had talked about earlier, it's a little bit too long. In certain areas, they could have cut a little here and there, but I think the remake was just the perfect time, runtime.
Nice. Yes. I did sit and think about this one for a minute. A lot of the movies that I've been talking about lately in my comparison videos, it's been easy to pick a winner. With The Thing, it was pretty difficult actually. And this one is harder as well, but I will have to go with the remake as much as I would want to give more credit to the original. But the 2-hour runtime just kills me. And I appreciate the music and what they were trying to do with it being dreamy a little bit. It just still bugs me and takes me out of it a little bit too much. But I do appreciate it being more horrific than the remake. But the remake is just a movie that I've loved every time I watch it. So I have to go with it.
I can dig it.
Yes.
All right. Well, before we wrap up here, I wanted to see if you guys had any videos or things that you wanted to plug in regards to Evol Live.
Oh yes, well make sure to check us out on YouTube. We got some discussions on the horizon. You can also check us out at BlurredCon 2024. We'll be having our own panel up there. Doing our thing for the people, for the people.
I'm gonna have a cute outfit on, so look out for that. We will be at BlurredCon, and we're going to keep having discussions and interviews, diving deep into the community.
Yes. Into the abyss.
Hallelujah.
Into the sunken place.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Awesome. Well, it was so good talking with you guys about the original and remake Stepford Wives. And I cannot wait to do this again with you guys very, very soon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you again, for having us on. Your level of quality is up there, always top notch. You're the voice. I'm saying it right here, the voice, so definitely it's always dope to link up, and discuss, horror, our favorite genre, so yes.
Love that. Thank you so much. Well, all right, Stardust. Until next time, peace.